Well, good day. My name is Damien Eversmann, and I'm here to talk to you today about enterprise automation, or as I like to call it, your pass to the fast lane. So, a little bit of information about me. Like I said, my name is Damien Eversmann. I've been all over IT in my many years of working. I've been a developer, a development manager, a systems engineer, enterprise architect, and now I'm a Red Hat solutions architect. Basically, what that means is I am the technical counterpart to the Salesforce. You can see all of my contact information there. I'll bring this slide back up again in a little bit, sort of at the end of the presentation, so you can write it down or grab it if you want to get in touch with me. So, a little bit about who I am really. So, above me there on the slide is my son and our dog, who thinks that she's a full-fledged human member of the family. The other picture on the top, kind of up and over that way, is my wife and kids at a gathering that Red Hat had, our annual sales kickoff. It was in Orlando, and my entire family flew down to Orlando, and I spent 3 days in meetings, and they spent 3 days in amusement parks. So, well, at least someone's getting a lot of fun out of this. And then, of course, that picture right there in the middle, that's downtown Chicago. Chicago is where I live. That building right there in the center, that is the Sears Tower. Yes, it's been renamed, but it's the Sears Tower. That's what everybody knows it as. And that second tallest building right over there, that's the building that the Red Hat office is in, and I actually spend a little bit of time down there. So, let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to talk about today. Now, what I'm about to read to you here is the abstract that I wrote for this presentation. Turns out our brand department believes that abstracts shouldn't have metaphors in them. And my abstract, the entire thing is a metaphor. But they didn't say anything about metaphors in presentations. So here's my abstract. Automation workflows can take your department from the department of no to the department of go. Whether your market is citizens, students, or sales, your customers are constantly looking for ways to go to market quicker than ever before. They want a fast lane to get from point A to point B, and their initial choice is you. But you currently can only provide toll booths and traffic control. Learn how to give them a fast lane to success before they veer off into the unknown neighborhoods and intersections of shadow IT. By unifying the silos of IT through automation and the collaboration of workflows, not only will you be in the fast lane, you'll be the fast lane in no time. As you can see there, I pretty much totally went hook, line, and sinker in with the metaphor, and we'll try to keep with that metaphor as we go through the presentation here. So, let's actually talk a little bit about what we're going to discuss today. So, first of all, we'll talk a little bit about what automation is and what it's good for. We'll talk about where collaboration fits in this whole thing. What is enterprise automation? After all, it's in the title of this presentation. Some pitfalls to watch for as you adopt this enterprise automation thing, and then finally some wins in the real world. So, first, let's talk about why automation. Well, before we go anywhere, I like to define what it is we're talking about. So let's look at some definitions for automation. Merriam-Webster tells us that it is 1, the technique of making an apparatus, a process, or a system operate automatically. 2, it is the state of being operated automatically. Or 3, automatically controlled operation of an apparatus, process, or system by mechanical or electronic devices that take the place of human labor. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like definitions that actually contain the word you're trying to define. So I came up with a definition that takes the best of those but leaves out the word automate. Automation is the technique of making some process operate with the need for minimal or no human intervention. I kind of like that one. I think it really is concise and to the point, and it doesn't reuse the word automate in the definition. So let's talk a little bit about some benefits that Red Hat sees with our automation product. Right? 94% reduction in recovery time following a security incident. 84% saving by deploying workloads to generic system appliances using Ansible Tower. 67, you know what, I can keep going, but in the end, what we see is 146% ROI on Ansible Tower, and people start seeing that payback in less than 3 months. Well, what can you automate? After all, we're talking about automation. Well, the question would probably be better phrased, what can't you automate? So you can see here, the lists go on, and this is by no means an exhaustive list. You can automate cloud, you can automate virtualization and containers, you can automate Windows machines or network devices, storage devices, operating systems, DevOps systems, monitoring systems. The list goes on and on. So that's why you want to automate. But let's talk about yet another reason why automation is important. Some years ago, you might remember some headlines that were grabbed about Amazon taking down half of the internet. This was back in 2017. I know that there was one a little more recently, but this was the big one and the first one in 2017. And a couple pundits around the world talked about how terrifying it was that how much of the internet went down because of the outage, right? So Amazon performed a root cause analysis. Of course, the headlines all disappeared, not much afterwards, and everyone forgot about it, but you can believe that Amazon didn't. And they did a root cause analysis. And their analysis was that an authorized S3 team member executed a command which was intended to remove a small number of servers. Unfortunately, one of the inputs to the command was entered incorrectly, and a larger set of servers was removed than intended. Well, what that basically says is somebody made a mistake. If you go on and read the report, it's about 10 pages long. It talks a little bit more in depth about the mistake that made and sort of the chain of events that basically caused system after system to fail as things were going wrong. So the mistake that was made was that this authorized S3 team member mashed the keyboard. He fat-fingered as he was entering a command, and instead of typing 1, he hit 1 twice and hit 11. That 1 was a percentage. 1% is very different from 11%. The next thing that they talk about is that this was a routine activity. This wasn't something new or different or strange or experimental. He was performing a routine activity that he did day in and day out every single day. This is where automation shines. It helps make sure that we humans who get bored with repetitive stuff don't get bogged down by it. We don't make mistakes because we're no longer paying attention. So, automation is like automotion. Helps you get from point A to point B in a faster, more reliable fashion. It's not always 100%, nothing is, and we're not making promises of 100%. It's a repeatable process that is more dependable than what came before, i.e. horses in the case of automotion, and automation here, something like Ansible. And it's a tool in the practitioner's toolbox. So the next topic we're going to talk about is collaboration. What is the collaboration connection? Well, again, we're going to go ahead and dive in and see what Merriam-Webster has to say about collaboration. The definition of collaboration is either A, to work jointly with others, or together, especially in an intellectual endeavor. To cooperate with or willingly assist an enemy of one's country, and especially an occupying force. Starting to sound like some of the silos and infighting that we have in IT departments, huh? And then finally, to cooperate with an agency or instrumentality with which one is not immediately connected. And these all kind of apply here. So let's talk about collaboration. Yoda might say something like, sharing leads to collaboration. Collaboration leads to DevOps, and DevOps leads to enlightenment. So DevOps is the big buzzword, the thing that we hear all about all the time. So let's talk about what DevOps is, since this seems to be the pinnacle of collaboration. Well, the main tenets of DevOps can be expressed in this abbreviation, CALMS. CALMS stands for culture, automation, lean, measurement, and sharing. So let's talk about what each of those is. Culture, well, that's the foundation upon which everything is built. That's the foundation of DevOps. That's the foundation of a well-oiled machine in terms of IT. Let's talk about automation. Well, we're already talking about automation. We're talking about why it's important. The idea is to remove the toil of all of this work. Let people flourish in a more creative way and not do monotonous, repetitive tasks. Lean. Now that's an important one, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But basically the idea behind lean is to smoothly transition the work between the work centers and not get hung up in all sorts of delays. The last two are really important. Measurement. Measure everything. The idea behind measurement is to prove that you're actually improving, if that's your goal. And finally, sharing. Sharing is important. Sharing is important among people within your own organization so that everybody knows what's going on, and with people outside of your organization. It fosters collaboration and it helps feed back into that culture. Each of these items doesn't live in its own vacuum, though. They all work together. Now, we're going to go back to that analogy that I've been doing, or my metaphor, right? It's sort of like an engine, right? We have this culture camshaft upon which everything rides. And this automation and lean and measurement and sharing, these are all pistons in that engine that keep it moving forward and keep it working. That culture keeps things moving and everything else builds into it. So, DevOps is like the guardrails of IT. Holds some things together, keeps other things apart. By defining roles, everyone knows what everyone's supposed to do. Nobody steps on anybody's toes. You define processes and automation and keep everything moving smoothly without hiccups. That's what lean is for, removing all those delays. And then finally, everyone shares best practices to everyone's benefits. Collaboration is kind of like the rules of the road. It's the infrastructure we share. It's the laws that we abide by. It's that unspoken agreement that we have that we're all going to do what is right. And we come to that intersection together, and who got there first and who gets to go and turn first. It's the culture of the roadway and the support of the road itself. These are the things that make up collaboration. So the next piece, that's enterprise automation. So let's talk about what enterprise automation is. Well, first we need to define enterprise. We've already done automation, so let's see enterprise. Enterprise is a project or undertaking that is especially difficult, complicated, or risky. That's actually very apropos for people that are taking on enterprise automation. Enterprise is a unit of economic organization or activity, especially a business organization. That's very applicable to most people these days. And it is a systematic, purposeful activity. These are both things that really apply. And then finally, it is readiness to engage in daring or difficult action, initiative. It's seriously like Merriam-Webster knew that I was coming. So enterprise automation is the race car of automation. Whether it's rally or F1, stock car, NASCAR, whatever it is that you like. My analogy is getting a little thin on this one. But automation and collaboration together to the extreme. That's what enterprise automation is. It's about bringing those teams closer and enabling cross-silo automation. In fact, breaking down silos altogether. It's achieving end benefits by automating everything from the start. So let me tell you a little story. And this actually ties back to automotive analogies. But let's dive into this a little bit. Let's talk about a single IT process and what's involved there. So, this is about provisioning an application, a new application. So, baseline, without any sort of automation, let's talk about what's involved here. We have things like provisioning the VM, provisioning the operating system on that VM, securing them, allocating and attaching storage, configuring the network, deploying the application, securing the application, and launching the application. Now, this is not by far an exhaustive list of the tasks, and some of them you might combine together, and some of them might actually be a bunch of different tasks. This is just for the purposes of an analogy here. So each one of these tasks, takes somewhere in the range of an hour, maybe some of them only 30 minutes, right? And then we've got to hand it off, right? When Sally provisions the VM and the OS, she takes her time, does her job, and then she has to pass it off to Bob, who's going to do security. Well, Bob might not be at his desk or might have a backlog, so it might take him 8 hours to get to it. You see where I'm going with this, right? Bob does his thing, and then it goes to Joe, who's actually in storage. He's not going to be ready. When he finally is, it's going to take him an hour to get it done. On and on down the line, everybody in all of the different departments, it takes time to get through all of these steps. When all is said and done, it's taken 6.5 hours worth of effort from all of these people, and another 48 hours of transitioning from one workflow to another, from waiting for someone to come back from lunch or come back from vacation or come back from going home early. I mean, the reasons go on and on. This task now takes over 50 hours to complete. That's more than an entire week's worth of effort. A lot of manual processes and a lot of shifting back and forth between different workloads. So let's take the first step of automation. Let's do the automation that we talked about at the beginning, where we give people tools to streamline their jobs and do things a little faster and a little more efficiently. So, every single person here has a tool. Some of them are down to 15 minutes, some are down to 10. Heck, that launch time, that's down to 5, right? So what we've done now is we've taken that 6.5 hours worth of effort, human effort, and reduced it down to less than an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes. Problem is, we still have that standby time. We still have that 48 hours of standby time. This process, this task is still taking more than a week. The people are happier because they're not going through all the toil and the repetitive tasks. They're able to actually get things done faster. But the task itself, the entire process, is still taking more than a week to proceed. That's where enterprise automation comes in. So let's look at the next step. Now we bring in an actual enterprise automation tool, like Ansible Tower, for instance. What this helps us do is take all of those different automated processes that people have come up with and chain them together with a workflow. So it takes 5 minutes, if that, to hand off from one process to the next. What we've done now is we've taken the total processing time down to less than an hour and a half, and the total standby time in between processes to just 30 minutes. This process that used to take a week and a half now takes less than 2 hours to complete. And on top of that all, the employees are more free to focus on larger, more important tasks that actually require them to think and be creative and be productive. So, how do we do that? Well, a tool like Ansible Tower, for instance, which is part of our Ansible automation platform at Red Hat, does just that. It combines things like a really powerful command line, a really, really strong and robust RESTful API, and a user interface that enables people to log in and actually interact with automation without needing to know the nuts and bolts of programming language or anything like that. It has role-based access control, so we can make sure that only the right people do the right things at the right time. And it enables us to do things just with push-button access. Entire applications can be deployed, or secured, or locked down, or networks can be deployed or changed. Everything's centrally logged, and it gives us workflows. Workflows that can match the IT processes. This is what workflows look like in Ansible Tower. You move seamlessly from one step of automation to the next. You even have failure steps where if something goes wrong, you can remediate things automatically. This multi-playbook workflow enables you to chain all sorts of processes together and really streamline the processes that your organization is going through. Enterprise automation is like self-driving smart cars. But it's more than that. It's more like a world where all of the cars are smart and they all work together. It's all of the fun and not a whole lot of the work. It keeps the eyes on the road and the hands on the wheel for you, and it makes sure that the right people ride, but enables everyone to work wonders. So, if we're going in this direction, let's talk about some of the speed bumps that we hit, some of the potholes on the road to enterprise automation. Well, here are a few. Not everyone shares or even knows the vision. There's a tendency to return to silos or kingdom building of yore. There's inherent fear often with automation. And then finally, a lack of support from higher levels of the organization. So let's talk a little bit about each one of those. So the first one is enterprise automation needs to be a shared vision. This is a culture change, going back to that C in the columns that we talked about of DevOps. When not everybody shares this vision, the culture starts to get fractured and it breaks down. And once that happens, people stop communication, like disconnections occur, latency creeps in, things slow down, things break. Then people stop trusting the tool, and if they don't trust the tool, they won't use the tool. It's kind of like Tesla autopilot. Everyone needs to be on the same page. Everyone needs to know how it works, or else you're due for a very abrupt stop at 87 miles per hour. So the next problem is everyone wanting their own kingdom. And this is sort of the lure of silos. Enterprise automation is a culture of openness and sharing. Right? Kingdoms are built with walls and wars, and that doesn't work with enterprise automation. The two don't match. There's no place for battlements and barricades. The only towers in enterprise automation are Ansible towers. Here's a big one. This is the fear of automation. Everybody talks about automation coming in. Day one, automation. Day two, layoffs, right? And everyone gets this picture that we're going to bring in the big A automation, and it's going to take over all of these tasks that we have, and all of the people that used to do those tasks are going to be without jobs. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Automation isn't about replacing individuals. It's about enabling individuals. It enables all of these individuals to become rock stars at their job. It enables them to take all of the processes that they do that they're experts about and document them and automate them in such a way that they can be constantly improving them, and they have the time and the energy left over to actually look for other improvements in other processes, to really make everything go further faster. Automation doesn't create jobless people. Automation creates domain experts, and those experts are vital at driving things forward. And then finally, the question about bottom down or top up. Is automation a grassroots effort, or is it something that's driven from the top, that's handed down as an edict from above? And this isn't really an either or question. It's a both. Yes, the answer is yes. In order for enterprise automation to be a success, it's got to have acceptance at all levels of the organization. Without an organization-wide direction, enterprise automation is going to fail because you're not going to have that big picture from above that can help make sure that everyone is collaborating and using the same tools or tools that work together. But without that grassroots groundswell, nobody's going to adopt the tools to begin with, and it's going to become an initiative and an effort that just gets ignored. So, last automotive analogy, I promise. Whether we're talking about flat tires or actual engine failures or even multi-car pileups, not implementing enterprise automation is enough to keep you off the road in IT. There are a lot of resources out there to help you learn, from professional services to get things going forward, like a garage, to YouTube videos that can help you do it yourself. Red Hat can give you either the tools to equip and move forward in your own garage, or we can bring in our top-notch pit crew and get your enterprise automation engines running smoothly. Don't you just love my analogies? So finally, I wanted to end with my little winner's circle here. I'm going to take you through just a couple quick wins of different organizations that we've worked with over the past 5 years or so, where we've seen some huge steps because of enterprise automation. So believe it or not, the first one is Microsoft. Microsoft has about 600 locations worldwide where hundreds of network engineers work on maintaining their network, their corporate network. It's a huge undertaking, and they were always having issues with disjointed, non-synchronized processes, and everything just wasn't working. So they brought in Red Hat Ansible automation, and they actually used it to help synchronize those processes across all of their hundreds of offices and make sure that their corporate network runs smoothly. They have Red Hat Ansible Tower running in Azure, and it's actually providing each and every one of their network engineers with the ability to do all of their processes in a more streamlined and repetitive way. SureScripts. SureScripts is a leading health information network in the United States. It transmits about 17 billion secure health data transactions a year. 5 million of those are prescriptions. Maybe your prescription's one of them. They were really developing huge code bases that were getting hard to manage. And so they decided that they wanted to break down their code base and start using microservices. So they decided to adopt Red Hat Ansible automation to help support this microservices-based code so that they could actually deliver faster, improve their DevOps CI/CD pipeline, and make sure that everything is happening in a way that is reliable to both them and their customers. EMC, or Energy Market Company, is a wholesale national electricity market in Asia. And it was the first one that was liberalized. It's a really big thing in Asia. And they were due for a bunch of server upgrades and a bunch of stuff based on regulations that were coming down over in Asia. And they adopted the entire Red Hat stack, including Red Hat Enterprise Automation. And they were able to actually automate the processes of software integration, testing, reliability, deployment, and really help them to get all of their systems modernized and to actually make it into those new requirements that they have. And then finally, the Reserve Bank in New Zealand. They were doing something very similar. They were doing a modernization where they were actually upgrading a lot of their systems. And of course, it's a bank, so there's tons of regulations and stuff that are on top of it. And one of the things that they did is they actually used Ansible playbooks to help them maintain all of those requirements that they had by government regulations and help them make sure that everything stayed completely and totally in check. So I'm showing you here Ansible Fest, and you might be looking at the date on that and saying, wow, Damien, that date's passed. That was 6 months ago. And I know it was 6 months ago, but much like Ansible Automates right now, Ansible Fest was a completely virtual event. And if you go to ansiblefest.com, you can actually sign up, and all of the content from Ansible Fest in 2020 is recorded and totally available for at least the next 6 months. I'm pretty sure the next Ansible Fest is going to be the same way, so feel free to go out there, head out, sign up, and check it out. So that's actually all that I have to share with you today. Again, I've been Damien Eversmann. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that everything here has been as useful to you as it has been fun to me. Have a great day, get out there, automate something, and do things more efficiently. Thanks, everybody.